All right, welcome everybody to the Studied X Talks. Today we're discussing mental health in university. And our focus today is going to be so much on solutions because there's been a lot of mental, illnesses in university and so many pressuring, things that most students go through in university. And today I just thought we put together a discussion and talk about all these issues and see how best the students do go through the same things and how they overcome them, how they find solutions and how they apply themselves to their friends and how easy it is for them to open up whenever they have these issues inside of them. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. So let's get into it. What issues really affect students the most that are likely to lead to harmful practices, right? The thing is that I know that there's so many things that happen in university and that concern mental health, you know. So the point is, what is it that you guys who are in university today, what is it that you think affects you the most that sort of like leads to, harmful practices like drugs, isolation, indirect peer influences and stuff like that? What is it that you think is the most challenging thing?
I think, Kunda, you can feel free to respond.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I feel peer pressure is the most that tops everything on the list because, to start with, people are experiencing independence for the first time.
Yeah.
And then when they get into school, you find that when they don't have a certain thing and then their friends have it, they tend to do what their friends are doing, and it becomes a problem because when they don't have the money, they'll find anything and do everything in their means to get what their friends have. So I think peer pressure tops the list for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So I think for me, it's balancing what is priority first, because from the get-go, when you get to university, right, there's a lot of social activities that you generally planned for. And in a space of 1 year, I think there's a lot, there's a lot that goes on aside from the school schedules and all that stuff. So sometimes balancing or putting a hierarchy on what you think is most important is quite difficult for many people. And then you end up having, let's put it this way, you did a lot of social events, you had parties and name it, yes. And then your academic life still goes on in as much as you are going out, as much as you are working. And then it's now a battle of catching up with your schoolwork. And for some of us in law school, you have so many cases piling up, and if you didn't read them prior, you have that problem of, am I going to be able to catch up before the deadlines? And usually the deadlines are, sometimes it could be assignments, sometimes it could be continuous assessments like tests, quizzes, and the biggest one is the exam. So you find yourself battling, how am I going to get to finish what I need to know before my final exam? And that in itself becomes pressure on its own, because you have to find how to divide your time in as much as you would want to take part in all the other activities. Yeah.
Amazing. Anyone else before we get into the queue? Tumelo.
Tumelo. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Awesome. So for me, I would say the need for support, and also
we're going back to the first point, the peer pressure point. So what is it that you guys think makes one vulnerable to such? Is it lack of a better upbringing, or is it the environments that they grow up in, or what is it in particular that you think would make one vulnerable to things that they see in university?
So personally, I think it could be a struggle for finding your identity to begin with.
Yeah.
Because if you know yourself, I feel like there are certain things that, in as much as you are pressurized, you are not going to succumb to doing them.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing on my list would be the struggle to find yourself or find who you are. And then there's a lot of experimenting that goes on, and sometimes it's situations where, oh, my friends are doing it, they're my age mates, we are in the same intake, we are both at the same school, so let me try. And then maybe their schedules are different. You know how, like, in high school there was those people who used to take part in everything and
Yeah.
still top the class, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because at home they used to go and study, and they know themselves, they know they work best in the night.
Yeah.
But then it's for you, it's a situation where you are trying to find out what you would like by following the majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So now coming to your point, like the balancing between necessities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many things that do go on in university for sure, and the, like, you know, a plethora of activities that go on, and it's like you're in a position to either focus on your studies or sort of like be too social on the other end. Like, you know how friends would sort of like want you to be part of the group and, you know, take part in everything that you're planning, like parties, you know, and all those things like walks, visits, and all that stuff. But then the question is, in the midst of all that stuff, how easy does it become for you to sort of like find balance, like in that particular space? Because looking at the diversity of what interests are there in university, you sort of like want to as well be part, you know, like the peer pressure issue where you sort of like feel like you want to fit in. So do you rather like ignore your friends at that particular time on the attention part so you can focus on your thing, or what is it that you exactly do?
So I think for me, the first thing is what I've always been told is remember why you started.
Yeah.
So anyways, personal experiences is you, so there's this battle in law school, yeah? Like, it's everyone wants to be a lawyer, but who wants it the most?
Uh-huh.
So if you always remember why you started, you, how do I put this? You will know what is the first thing on your list, like your priority list. You will know what initially is like the first, literally the top priority. And then when you understand that and you understand why you started your journey, especially in university, you find yourself, you'll be able to say no to certain things. Like, if your friends invite you for parties and stuff like that, if you really know yourself, yeah, sometimes they're very tempting because they'll tell you, no, we'll pay for you. All you have to do is just bring your body, you know, like, we'll pay for you for everything, even like the cab and whatever we're going to do that side.
Yeah.
But then if you understand yourself and you know why you started, you definitely know what works for you and what doesn't. That's from my personal experience.
Amazing. The question is mainly about, you know, balancing between the most essential thing as the reason why you're in school and the social part about being a friend to your friends, you know. So how do you sort of like find balance in between? Do you give so much attention to your friends, or do you, you know, like, how do you balance up in between? When do you get to say no to the outings or anything else that comes, so you can focus on your, you know, school, which is an essential thing as to the reason why you're in school in the first place?
Hi everyone. So I couldn't hear the first few minutes of the meeting,
Sure.
but I'm glad I can hear you all now.
Amazing.
So with regards to the question, first things first, when we talk about peer pressure, we talk about understanding the fact that where you're going is a diverse place where people go there for different reasons. So when do you get the opportunity to say no?
Okay.
How do you learn to say no? Because the most tempting thing about being in university and having a lot of different people around that would tell you to do different things every now and then. How do you learn to say no? Because I believe if you hang out with maybe the same 5 people, when they say we're going out this weekend, you definitely go. If they say we're going out the next weekend, I have somebody that is going to buy drinks, you probably go.
Yes.
And the other week and the other week. So now, how do you train your mind to actually say no and understand why you are there in the first place?
Yes.
Because the moment that you learn to actually reject certain offers because of how, let's say, you decide to do certain things on your own, like others can attend class and still pass exams, and then there's others that need to study. So when you begin to understand that sometimes most of these people that will offer these types of opportunities to you do not fully understand what their intentions are towards you, because they might not be as good as you might perceive them to be, because you can't go out every weekend and them they're doing well and you are not doing well.
Yeah.
So you need to practice when you can actually say no. But then how do you learn or teach your mind to reject certain offers that don't like sit well with you or your value and where you come from?
So maybe if I'm to add up a contribution, just like Delphine said, I think there's great need to understand why you started in the first place, like knowing why you are in university, or it could be anywhere else, particularly university for now. So I think there's great need to understand why you're there, first thing first. Once you get to understand that, but then the thing is, again, that could be subjective, because so much of what you possess tells you the other thing is the right thing compared to the other thing. So it matters again to the environment again and the friends that you have in the first place. What is it that what is it that dominates your environment? What is it that you see quite often? What is it that makes sense to you personally? So the thing is, the friends that you have play a huge role. You get right? It's not like you're going to choose the right ones and leave out the bad ones, because it's again going to be difficult for you to identify which ones are the bad if you consciously think the other ones are the right ones, if you get what I mean. So the point is, the only thing that would help you know how to separate the two is if you get to fully understand why you're in university in the first place. Once you grasp of that, it becomes easy for you to know when to say yes and when to say no. And I think that's the point that Delphine raised as well, which makes a lot of sense, right?
I think Carol had an answer too.
Yeah. Sure, go.
Thank you so much. I agree to what Delphine has said as well. Where you're coming from is very important, and also knowing oneself is very, very important. But also it all goes down to time management as well, because when I started university, I know I went late. I was really late. I didn't attend most lectures, so I had to catch up with work. And I stopped going to church personally, but I had to prioritize a lot of things. I prioritized my school, but then I also timed my schedules and put everything in place. I finished my work on time. I made sure I had a little bit of sleepless nights here and there. And then I did manage to catch up with everybody. So time management is really important in one's life. It's very important to manage your time with everything. I'm not saying having friends over is bad. No. I really think social life is important, but also prioritizing, like Delphine said, and also time management is really, really important.
Amazing.
Yes, thank you so much.
Sure. So now let's move on to the next point, which connects with the previous one. So the thing is, now that you'd say, okay, there's great importance in knowing what's essential and what's note at a particular time and time management, because these are the major points that I've collected from this. So now there's a part where in your, I don't know how I should put this, but let me use the word group. In your group, as in how you play or how you see other things go on around you, and you have things that do affect you internally, which is the subject of this topic. How easy is it for you to approach your friends and explain to them what you're going through, or what it is that you're experiencing internally concerning the mental, health issue? For example, anxiety, depression, maybe something happened that you really don't like and is pressuring you so bad. How easy is it for you to approach your friends and talk to them about it? Tumelo, sure.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, the first time I was speaking, my network disconnected.
Okay.
So I was unable to finish giving my first point. But when it comes to opening up to friends, it's not very easy because most of the times you wouldn't know how to open up in a way that people can understand you, appreciate what you have told them, and keep it in a confidential way. Because most of the times when we open up to people, it's not everyone who has the maturity or the understanding to say what this person is confiding in me about, or telling me something that should be kept private and something that should be taken seriously. Most of the times friends will just take it like a joke, like, oh, you're sad because of this. You can just maybe brush it off or think about it later. But would have to really identify people who we can talk to, so that even as we speak to them, they can give us a good listening ear and give us, maybe if they don't have the best solutions for us, they can direct us to people who can help us. So I think it comes down to us as well, in who we choose to be in our friendship circle and who we choose to include in our friendship circle, as well as being a good friend for other people as well. Because most of the times you'd find that if you don't have a friend who you can be accountable to, a friend who can maybe put you in the right place, when you're doing something that's wrong, they can be like, no, what you're doing isn't right. Like, get checked to think about it. Like, a friend who's not always a yes man, we'll find it very difficult to have people who can tell us things that are really going to be beneficial for us, because we have people who are not really interested in our well-being. So sometimes it's not very easy to open up because of those reasons. But when we have people who we know who can listen to us, people who we know once we speak to them, what we say won't be heard by everyone else because they'll keep it to themselves, and they'll understand that what we're telling them is something very important and something very serious and something that's majorly affecting us in terms of our mental health. It really helps us to take a step back, breathe, and see how best we can make a right decision in that moment. Because sometimes maybe when you're, let's say, depressed, maybe you're in school and you're depressed, you wouldn't make decisions that are best for you. So when you have a friend who you can open up to and who you can speak to and who can put you in the right place or tell you something that's going to be beneficial, at least they can help us to take some time back and think about decisions before we make them. I'll give an example of myself. I do have friends who I can just talk to, friends who I can just play with and the like, but I also do have friends who I can make myself accountable to, and friends who I can speak to when I'm going through something, because I know they would listen and they would ensure that I make a decision not just based off the situation I'm in, but a decision that's going to require me to think about all the possible outcomes and really take my time with it.
Amazing.
Okay, that's my contribution. Thank you.
Amazing. The next thing is, so the question from the same, unless, is there anyone willing to?
So I think for me, this is one thing I've had for like the longest time, which is having a safe space.
Amazing.
So this safe space could actually be a person. And usually it's better if it's a person. Yes, we all have journals, we have diaries, but what we write in our diaries is just what we are feeling. And sometimes we need like advice and stuff like that, right? So make sure you have a safe space. And so now what we're looking at it in terms of, this is a person. So this person should be able to criticize you, like openly, without sugarcoating anything and everything. but then they should also have a listening ear, because there's definitely like the lowest points you'd reach when you can't even understand. And then there's people like me who would just want to be in their presence, and that's enough, and that would like help you feel better. So they must also be available for you in your sad times, like in times when you feel low. So yes, people have like therapists and all that, but then some therapy sessions are scheduled, you know, meaning you can't just see your counselor or your therapist at any time you want.
Yeah. So then the question I have is, when you say like,
and yeah,
I think I've heard this from both. Oh, Carol, you can go ahead. Sure.
Thank you. I'll start by saying having a mature friends is very important.
Okay.
I mean, we can say, yes, I have friends, but then whenever you approach them when you have a situation, they always joke about it. They make jokes about it. And then nowadays it's very common. Yeah. I have seen that it's very common to make jokes out of everything, even when it's serious. Recently, there's been a lot of suicidal cases, and then people have been joking about that, and that is nothing to joke about.
Yeah, sure.
And then creating a safe haven for people is also important. I'm a person who I have noticed a lot of people open up to me, and I appreciate that about myself. But being a listening ear is also very important, because sometimes the person does not want you to say something. You might not have the right words at that point, but all the person wants is for you to listen. Being a safe haven is very important, and having mature friends, because it's something that is very important to have mature friends. And yes, what Delphine said, everything that Delphine said.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can get you, Grace.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I was going to say that for this point, what's most important is identifying who the mature friends are.
Okay.
So for me, I think in order to identify a mature friend, you have to see the people that you've been talking to. Like these people, all your friends, you talk to them, right? Yeah. Now you have to identify those that you talk to about serious things, and then there's those that you're always joking with. Yeah. For those you're always joking with, you can always tell that, okay, maybe if I say something serious, they won't take me seriously because we are always joking. Yeah. So identify that friend. You can tell things like, no, you know those people you've told, no, my sister passed away, you know, such things. Those are the people that you can confide in with your mental health issues, because you know they'll listen to you without judging you, yeah, or they'll give you good advice. So for me, like, that's my main point. Like, I just wanted to tell people how to identify a mature friend.
Amazing. Thank you so much.